planning your week before it starts. And you say in the email, your creative capacity can die a death of 1,000 decisions. Set the contours of your week beforehand. Unpack this for us a little bit, Derek.
When you're in charge, you tell you what to do. I
Right.
I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do, actually. But then sometimes there can be, I don't know if you feel this, sometimes there's that nagging voice that's like, I kind of wish someone just said, do this, and then I did it, and then I'd be done. And I wouldn't have to worry about whatever it is again. You know what I'm talking about?
Welcome to Growing a Fruitful Brand, where we discuss how to create and grow a brand that makes the world a better place for you, your customers, and your employees. I'm Ben Luters, founder and art director of Fruitful Design and Strategy, and today I'm honored to be joined by Derek Imai of Parliament Consulting. Welcome to the podcast, Derek.
Thanks for having me. And might I say, that sounds super professional.
I've done this a few times.
Well done. That's apparent.
I've been around the block. I was practicing with my kids this morning at breakfast.
Oh, good.
So, I'm trying to impress you. Everyone, for those who don't know, Derek and I actually worked together at Fruitful. He was an employee of ours for a while, and now he's doing his own thing, like I mentioned, called Parliament Consulting. And I've had the pleasure of actually being served by Derek in Parliament and his consulting work. Been really impressed by him. And the genesis of this podcast conversation was actually a weekly email that just really spoke to me. And the principles that he shared in it, I just thought were so cool. I thought you guys would appreciate it too. So we want to get into those 4 things to harness the incredible power of just showing up. That was the name of the email. But before we do that, I do want, Derek, if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about Parliament Consulting. What is this work that you're doing?
I mainly work with business leaders. And as you know, as a business leader, sometimes it can be a struggle. You are in the demographic. And so, sometimes it's hard to connect kind of the chaos of everyday business to growth, impact, legacy, like all these things that you want to get out of business. And so, Parliament helps with things like clarifying and refining your vision, taking regular focused strategic action, and developing as a leader, because as a business owner, an executive, a founder, your personal life and your professional life are close together. And so we really want to see people flourish in both of those domains. And so Parliament helps with all those things through coaching, workshops, variety of services.
It is really hard to tell where my professional life ends and my personal life begins. It's all kind of a mess, and it can feel like a lot of pressure to show up, to get into focus mode, to even know, what's the work that I should be doing or could be doing today. It's really kind of overwhelming sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's a struggle that a lot of people have, especially when you have a lot of control over what you can do day to day. When you're in charge, you tell you what to do. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do, actually. But then sometimes there can be, I don't know if you feel this, sometimes there's that nagging voice that's like, I kind of wish someone just said, do this, and then I did it, and then I'd be done. And I wouldn't have to worry about whatever it is again. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Let's just get right into this list that you shared. Planning your week before it starts. And you say in the email, your creative capacity can die a death of 1,000 decisions. Set the contours of your week beforehand. Unpack this for us a little bit, Derek.
That is a very visceral statement for me. I live in Istanbul, right? So I live in a major urban city. I run my own business. My wife runs her own business. So we have a lot of freedom and flexibility of when to work, where to work. We have 4 kids, so dealing with all their stuff as well. But there's days where I sit down and open my computer and I feel like I've made 100 decisions just to get to that point. Right. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? And so that's where there's a general structuring of even where you're going to work, what places you work, that can be quite helpful to get you over the resistance of, am I in work mode? Like you're saying, everything blends together. Am I in work mode or not work mode right now? And so there's like tips for this, like stay-at-home workers. But I think, for business owners as well, this idea of planning out the contours of your week. Do you have meetings? Do you have, different schedule elements to take in so that you're not having to make that decision in the moment. Where should I go? And then what should I do? but you're kind of following a pre-established plan. Because I think,
Mm,
like you're saying, Ben, with anything that comes from the outside can be helpful sometimes, just to prompt you, whether it's an email. I mean, this is where
right.
coaching can be quite helpful because you've got outside input. But
Right.
even the person that can help prompt you is your past self, right? So
Hmm.
me last Friday can really help set me this Friday up for success just by sketching out my week. So
Mm. Well, tell us a little practically. Obviously, I know you don't want to get too like prescriptive
totally.
of, hey, this is what I do, and so you need to do it like me. But I am kind of curious, like, for yourself, what's worked for you? How do you plan out your week? Do you have a certain framework? Do you do this on, Sunday night, or just tell me, like, what's worked for you?
I really like doing things in an analog way, in the
Mm,
digital world. So I write a lot of stuff down. I think that's helpful. I also I'm can be fairly scatterbrained and forgetful. So I do
mm,
put anything appointment wise goes into a calendar. I set reminders all the time, or else I just forget. But in terms of the big picture, what moves things forward, I actually use the full focus system.
I
You familiar with
wondered. I
that?
wondered when I was reading that, I'm
Yeah,
like, this sounds like the full focus system, which I've tried
totally.
before, and then I tried adapting
Yep.
myself. And actually, I just gave my wife a full focus planner, so I'm a big fan of it.
Nice.
I think I was afraid of like buying into the system because then you have to like
Yeah.
be buying like 4 of these a year, basically.
Totally. Well, no,
But
and yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, and not to plug it too well. So I'm certified with them too. So I'm
Oh, that's good
certified
to
like
know.
planner thing. And I will say, so a planner is what, like, I don't know, $40 or so, $35. Which, if
Yeah.
you think about that expense over the course of a quarter,
Yeah.
as a business owner, the decisions you make can really have a big swing in terms of, let's just thinking about it in dollars and cents in terms of revenue. So,
Yeah.
$40 a quarter, helps you
It's not that
make at
bad.
least a couple $100, you know what I mean? Or
Especially if it's a
thousands
business
of extra dollars.
expense, that's like,
100%. Yeah, totally.
I think it actually would be okay. That's it. I'm getting back on the
There you
train.
go.
I
Get
think,
on the
what I
train.
did. I was doing the thing we were just talking about. I think I was
Yeah,
like, okay, I've learned some stuff from here. I'm going to try to optimize it. I'm going to create my own thing. And then,
totally.
of
Yeah.
course, here I am not actually following that now. So,
What and there's a slight spin the other side that I think of, we try to optimize it so much that it becomes unuseful. I'll say the way that I typically approach things like this is I only use the parts that are useful. Like, I'm like,
mm,
what in this system serves me? Because I don't want to serve a system. I am
yeah.
not I don't like, I'm about to say I don't like organization. I like the effects of organization. So I do the absolute minimum required to keep me productive, and so
Ooh.
so and that's where you can kind of take, like, what are the areas you're weak in terms of organization or prioritization or getting things done. Focus just on that. So I think one of the other things is just pick, like, what are your 3 things to do for the day. I mean, that's a big part of the full focus system. It's like, what's your daily
Mm,
big 3, but those
mm,
roll up from like a weekly big 3. Like, what 3 things do I need to get done this month to get me closer to my goals? And that should be coming from, what are my goals for this month, this quarter, this year? So when you have like a 3, 6, 12 month kind of planning cycle, then you can
mhm.
reverse engineer things. Because if you want to get something done 6 months from now, that's not a one-time thing. How do you
Yeah.
how do I know today what I'm going to do to get that, when you're constantly have a bunch of inbound, you have a bunch of other things on your could-do list? So having that system to where you've got broader goals that roll up to, monthly goals, weekly goals, and then all the way to, I'm sitting here right now at my desk. What am I going to do right now that's moving me towards those?
So the second point is planning each day before it starts. I think
Hmm.
obviously these things are, related to
Totally.
one another. You're planning out your week, and then you're planning out your day.
Yeah,
You kind of alluded to this a little bit of like, you know, writing down the top 3. Do you want to elaborate on that? Anything else about
totally.
planning your day as opposed to your week?
Yeah, and it's also, it's in a similar vein. You want to start your week with your week planned out. It's also good to start your day with your day planned out, so you don't have to come
Mm,
and sit down. And maybe not every single minute, different levels of organization. But if you have oversight of, these are my top 3 priorities, right? These are the top 3 high value things that are going to move me towards my goals. Help me achieve the things that I want. It's really helpful to be able to sit down and just start working on them. I
oh
think,
yeah.
and planning your day actually is a fairly low friction activity. Like, it doesn't take a lot of, like, willpower. Oh, I gotta plan my day tomorrow. So sometimes it's good to do, especially at the end of your day when you're kind of out of juice, to think, okay, you can do that easy. Like, I'm going to put my top 3 things down to tomorrow, move things over my to-do list. So then when you sit down at your desk, you open your computer, you set up, you're like, I know exactly what I need to be doing right now and can just start, rather than, I don't know what I need to do. So, okay, so here's a scenario. You sit down and you don't have clarity about what your like top 3 things are for the day. What's the first thing you do? And it's like, I tell you what I do. I check my email. That's the first thing that I do, which is usually not a good place to start, because then I'm responding to emails or thinking about something, or you know what I'm saying. Like, I'll do something that is, and then an hour goes by. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? Or whatever. And so you can, where instead you get an hour or two into your day and you've already knocked out 1, 2, or all 3 of the to the point where you can be like, wow, I could be done for today, and that was a good day. And so so that's one of the reasons why starting your day with your day planned out also is super helpful.
Well, yes, what I'm hearing there is like, not all tasks are created equal, and that it's important to like spend a little bit of time and think about like, okay, yeah, like if I were to only get 3 things done, if I was only gonna get 1 thing done, like what would make this day a success? And sometimes maybe it is email. Like for me, I sometimes put off. I love the creative work. I love getting that in that focus space. And sometimes I let my emails accumulate, and I know, and I can have the sense of dread of like, oh my goodness, I know there's so many things I need to get caught up on. So I'll put it off. Sometimes, so there's days where on like a Thursday, it's like, okay, I need to prioritize getting back to some people. I'm more involved in some of the bidding process with some clients. I got to get this bid out there, get this Loom video out there. I need to send this work on. Like, that could be the thing, but you gotta wrestle with that. You gotta spend a minute at the end of the previous day, beginning of this day, and think about it. I really love that, and I haven't been practicing that as well. So that might have been one of the things that really like stood out to me was, how can I really prioritize this day? I started probably after you sent that. So this week I did this a little bit better, where we have an amazing project manager, Michelle Savage. Yeah. Shout out to Michelle. I know she probably doesn't listen to this podcast, but if she did, I'll get this clip and send it to her personally. Yeah. She's amazing at what she does, and one of the things I love that she does is she helps us practice this kind of stuff better if we want to, because what she does is at the end of every week, she makes a list for the next week of like, here's all the things that we needed to do next week, separated by person. And she also includes the wins from the previous week, which is a really cool thing. Like, I'm not that way. I don't usually, on my own, I don't celebrate wins.
Totally.
I cross it off, I forget about it, and I just focus on all the stuff that's not checked off, which is really stressful. But she does all that for us. And so then what I do on Monday morning is I'll take the thing that she has already typed up for me of all the stuff I need to get done that week, and then I break them up into days right there. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so, I've tried that this week, and it was so much more helpful. I just realized when I looked at the day, it's already predetermined, and some things roll over. If I didn't fully finish the thing from Monday, it might go into Tuesday or whatever.
Totally.
But then I know, and I've got a starting place, and she does too, and Raj does too. There's like people that there's some accountability there, because I do it kind of publicly. I take her thing, copy and paste it, restructure it a little bit, and send it over. Like, this is my week, and then I check things off digitally as I go. That's what I tried, it was nice to have that kind of accountability. And I just felt like, okay, I don't have a million things to do every day. I have a million things to do this week, but when you break up a million things into 5, equal parts, I know this isn't mathematically correct, but it gets a lot smaller.
It does get smaller. No, and that's good too, to be able to, because then you know what you're doing. And so the nice thing is you have Michelle. A lot of people don't have that, right? Or, maybe that's not the way that it works. Maybe that would be a helpful thing for their project managers to do as well. And so in thinking through, so there's 2 things to look at. One of them is in thinking through, okay, well, what are the things that I need to do in the course of a week or in the course of a day? That, again, it's worth saying again that's because there's a goal on the horizon. Well, I want to get here, and so I need to be taking these steps to get me there, kind of thing. And so even just that basic thing of, I have a goal and I want to reverse engineer getting there. And, a lot of the stuff that I would imagine you're being assigned is with the, the work of the business, which is good. But this is where this expands too to other domains of life, right? Like this is
Yes, I
like
was just
what
going to
you,
ask you about
yeah.
that. Good,
So,
good, good.
and that's where, as a business owner, or solopreneur or that sort of thing, where you do have this like kind of haze of where does my personal and professional life end and begin.
Right.
um and you're having to kind of work. It's one of those things like, do I work all the time? Do I never work? What exactly is it? So that's where having oversight of all of these different life domains can be really helpful. It's like, okay, where am I going as a parent, as a husband? Where am I going in terms of my hobbies, or where am I going? And there's so many different domains of life to think that, and it's again, it's not a system where it's like I have to have a clear goal for every single domain of my life and all these different kinds of things. But it as you go through seasons, you get older, there's different seasons of the year and work seasons. It can be good to just sit back and think, like, what area needs some attention? How's my health
Mm,
right now, right? Like that
yeah.
that could be one domain where it's like, and because that has a direct impact on the business, the
Hmm.
in terms of your ability to do certain things. And so being able to kind of and this is something that I do at a higher level that drives some of this, is I'll just do a little audit of several life domains,
Mm,
because it's what, how are all of these things, what needs attention, and what are some goals that I might have, that are going to drive it forward. And then you start, you put it down, and then you start reverse engineering that way. Because one of those things that if you don't think about it, it'll just sit on the back shelf and you'll never get there, right? Like it's,
yes.
wow. I mean, everybody finishes the sentence. They'll all do it in their head right now when I say, wow, I really should whatever. You know what I mean? Like then there's
Yeah.
something that everyone's like, oh yeah, I really should do this, that, or that. And if I just listed the domains, there'd probably be a I really should in all of the different domains of life,
Mm,
and so that's where it takes a I really should into this is a clear goal, and then it takes this is a clear goal into this is how I'm going to get there, and then it takes this is how I'm going to get there into this is the step I'm going to take today, because a lot of times you can't spend a focused 4 days in a row like achieving a goal. Sometimes you can, and that's great. But a lot more often, you spend one or two steps every other day for 2 months or something. You know what I'm saying? You
yeah. Oh, yeah.
accumulate this progress towards it, and um, and it can be really helpful to have somebody like Michelle that can have an overview of a domain and break things up and keep things on target.
Hmm.
But then also, it's there's a certain amount of individual skill that you can use as well. I mean, this is what I do as well for clients is I help them with this sort of like what domains do you want to focus on? What goal when I do executive coaching with them? I mean, that's a lot of what it is helping them actually take regular focused strategic action towards their goals after they create them. Because otherwise, it's you can live in a haze where it's like I know I'm you sort of like what am I measuring progress off of? And everybody does a little different, but sometimes having a bit to reflect on that, set some things up, and move forward. Yeah, it feels good. I think to to set up
Yeah.
goals and then achieve them.
Subscribe and ring that bell. All right, moving on to the next. The third point is designate certain places and routines for work. I really like this one. As you know, I'm working from Raj and I are both working from our homes right now. So this is my home studio, and for the most part, it's going well. But we're in the middle of winter, and kind of feeling trapped in my home. My
Yes.
wife is homeschooling my 5 kids in the other room, and when you get snowed in, you start feeling like you're going a little crazy. But I do believe in this principle of like having some kind of a routine, a place where you work.
Yep.
And I'm just curious, from your perspective, what does this look like for you? Because I know that you also work from your home primarily, and have worked remotely in a lot of different
Totally.
capacities over the years. So, tell me more like what works for you when it comes to place.
Yeah, it just having a designated place like this is my workspace. I mean, and it sometimes too you want to mix it up. Like, okay, depending on who's home, right? We're having a snow day today too, so everybody's playing in the snow right now, though, so they're not inside. But
Oh.
sometimes if I am working from home, I have an office which I'm currently in. That I'm like, this is my office. I close the door,
Yeah.
and and this is my workspace. This is what I do in there. And I try to not do other things in here too, or I use it for specific purposes, because otherwise it just, everything just kind of blends together. Or, I mean, this is even bizarre, but I don't think you can see it. Behind me, there's a chair. So I sit in that chair when I want alone time. I sit in this chair when I work. I mean, it sounds real
Oh, yeah, yeah,
goofy,
yeah.
but do you know what I mean? It's like, that's I, and obviously things change. I'll go work in there's better natural light in our living room. So I'll go work out there sometimes if I'm at home.
Yeah.
I do work at a co-working space as well. So there, coffee shops, like, but there's kind of just different places where I'm like, this is where I go to work. And part of that's like the setting up your week thing, where it's like, what district of the city am I going to be in? So it's like, oh, I'm going to go work at this coffee shop today, or am I going to be at the co-working space today, or am I working from home today? So I don't make that decision in the morning. I like, oh, where am I going to work today? Is not good. I go to a workspace, whether it's the one I have at home, whether it's the certain coffee shop I always work at, or whether it's the co-working space that I go to. It's almost like, I don't know, it sounds like kind of woo-woo, but it's like, this is like my space to work. Like, it's work time now. It's that my environment is telling me it's time to work. So
I'm curious from your perspective, kind of on that, because we're getting into like that focus, kind of Zen like focus state that everyone wants to achieve. And I think you seem like someone who's really, really good at focus work and seems to value it. What do you do about like distractions? What do you do about, social media and YouTube and like that? Do you find yourself getting like pulled into those things when your list is getting long and you need some escape, or like, do you have any helpful, tricks and tips to like avoid, constantly getting texts from family threads or something while you're working, or whatever that is that takes you out of work?
Totally. Yeah, I would guess different things distract different people. Making things harder to get, I think, is a good way. Like, this is, I mean, I actually delete Instagram off my phone when I'm not using it, and then when I want to use it, I download it, install it, and use it. And then I'm like, because having to download it is usually enough of like a thing where if I'm doing it kind of mindlessly, I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to download this right now. Like, whatever, I'm just, I'll download it later. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, now I'll download it, and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I think that I do, that you crave distraction, dopamine, whatever, that sort of thing when you're feeling, and it's typically worse when, because a lot of things factor into this, your ability to focus. Like, if you're physically tired, sometimes I'll just take a nap. I'm like, if I just take a nap, then I'll feel better, and then I can work better. And so I think
interesting.
Sometimes we like push ourselves into, I have to do it a certain way. Like, one thing I've been playing with lately is I don't work like very linearly.
Say that like, 10 times fast.
Linearly. Anywho, so I contend the way I work, I think, in some things probably will look like chaos to people, where it's like, well, you really need to focus on this one thing and then just do, but it's like, I find sometimes, depending on the nature of the task, I'll work on something until I like run out a little creative energy, and I'll work on something else for a while, and then I'll go back and I'll work on that sort of thing. And that works for me. I mean, some things, it's better to really just like, I need to really lock in and focus on that, but that's not everything. Yeah. And I think trying to treat everything that way isn't helpful for me. So kind of everybody's got a bit of a different way that they take action and that they work. And so knowing that and leaning into that, I think, can be helpful. There's actually another assessment, right? You've got StrengthsFinder and, all these certain things. There's one called the Colby A assessment that's
one I haven't heard of.
Right. So it talks about how you take action, basically, and so, like, for me, when there's a lot and it does it over 4 domains. One of them, I'm not certified in this at all. I've just taken the assessment. But one of the domains is risk and uncertainty. How does that impact your ability to take action? Some people, that really, they will slow down. They'll do, but for some people, one being me, I'm just like, oh, what, I'll just do stuff and try it. Well, it's uncertain, so I'll try something and see what happens. Some people, when it's uncertain, is like, I need to reduce the uncertainty before I do things, and so 2 completely different ways of approaching a similar context. And so knowing, hey, this is how I'm biased to take action in the face of these different circumstances, like how organized is it? How much information do I have? How much risk or uncertainty is there? That sort of thing can be helpful to know, so you can kind of lean into your working style. So that's, so knowing, and the idea of kind of understanding yourself and giving yourself freedom to do it in the way that works for you, not serving a system that, you heard somebody that you respect, that might not work for you. And it's really important as leaders, I mean, to know ourselves, and then to also know like our team, basically,
Yeah.
because you want to know what people do well and give them life. And we tend to only see it from our perspective too, right? Like if there's
Right.
something that, you hate to do, you don't want, because you're a kind person, you don't want to make anybody else do it because that would be
Yes.
terrible, right? But because people are different, they're sitting there thinking, I really wish I could do that one thing, not knowing that you hate it, And so this is where laying it all
Yes.
out on the table,
That well
allows people
said.
to see it.
All right, the last one, number 4, listen to the same playlist every time you need to do focused work. Your last point is kind of a hot take, I feel like. Listen
Yeah.
to the same playlist every time you need to do focused work. Defend that. Like, why? Why?
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's everybody's different, but like it's funny when you even mention Band of Brothers, I can hear just that opening like string motif, and in my
It's
mind, I'm like,
beautiful.
it sounds like work, like not in a bad way, but I'm
Oh,
like, huh,
interesting.
sounds like work. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
every
yeah.
time I listen to that, I mean, I'm working basically, and so, or the first
It
track on
ruins
the
Band of Brothers for you.
well, yeah, I don't know. I actually haven't watched it since then, but it's I wonder if there's enough of a disassociation or that sort of thing with it. But it's sort of like, um, this is also with the spaces thing, right? Like, do you watch Severance? Have you seen
I
that
haven't.
show on
I
Netflix?
know of it. I think Raj really likes it, but I haven't seen it
Okay,
yet.
I do quite like it. It's in the middle of it, but the premise, right, is they have they don't have access to their memories while they're at work of outside,
Mm,
and while they're outside they don't have memories at work, and so there's a
mm,
moment when they go to work that they switch basically, and so
mm.
not that you are severed and can't access memories, but having a switch I think is important. So whether that's
Yeah.
physical space, auditory, visual, like all the different kinds of things. And so I think the same playlist thing, it doesn't sort of have to be the same place, but there is a bit of like, I don't know, Pavlovian response, right?
I
Where
was
it's
gonna
like, I
say,
turn
yeah,
this on
Pavlov
and I
style.
work, and so one of the first Hans Zimmer track on the playlist is something from Dune, right? And so
Mm,
it's like, and I hear it and I'm like, it just sounds like work. It's like time to work now. Every time I do this, it's time to work. And so I have a couple of playlists I go to. I also use brain.fm. I think you guys use that
yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually bought that years ago through AppSumo. I bought a lifetime membership like right when they launched.
Oh,
And so I've had it for like 10 years or something like that. But
wow. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I didn't have a lifetime membership, and in fact, I had accidentally signed up for 2 different accounts. Apparently, and was double paying. I don't even know how
you're
that
their biggest
happened.
supporter.
Yeah, I was, and I think that was like when we were like kind of trimming things down a couple years ago. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I think I can just use some Spotify focused playlists. There's a lot of great
totally.
ones. So
But and here's a broader thing too with the playlist is there. I'm pretty sure I wrote about this in the email too, but it's the idea when you have something to do and you're having trouble getting started, you break it down into steps, and you start with the first step, which is oftentimes a lot more obvious or simple than you think. Like if you
mm.
need to write something, what's the first step? Like open your writing program. Like that seems really dumb. Do you know what I mean? But
But it's a
sometimes that's
ritual. It's part of the
yeah,
ritual. Yeah.
it's a ritual, and it's also I want to think typically, and not every day is like this, but that the grade of productivity is down, like it's sloped down, meaning that if I open my computer, which is an obvious first step, put on my playlist, open my writing app, I'm 3 steps in now, and and it's building that momentum kind of downhill,
Yeah.
and then you know what I'm saying, like there's so these steps seem almost too trivial to name. This is from what's his name, Greg McKeown's Effortless book. But
Effortless. Yeah.
but it's that idea where it's just and that they have this in health and fitness too, where it's like I don't want to go to the gym. It's like that's fine. All you need to do is put on your running shoes. You know what I mean? It's like or it's like I don't want to work out. It's like well just go to the gym, walk in the door, stand there for a second, and leave. Like you actually don't have to work out. Just
Yeah.
do that. And it's and
Oh,
then
totally.
what do you do when you put on your workout clothes and go to the gym? You're like, I may as well do something. Do you know what I mean? And so it's
Well, I think that's a big point of, you mentioned effortless, but I immediately think of Atomic Habits. That was a huge unlock for me, actually, talking about the gym. I always struggled with regular exercise for
Yeah.
years, and gym attendance. So I would have a gym membership, just like most people. I'd be paying for this gym
It's just like
membership.
your second Brain FM
Yeah,
account.
yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, I know. I was paying for two gym memberships. Now that no, I'd be paying for this gym membership, but I just found that it was hard to make it a part of my week. And then I read
Mm,
Atomic Habits, and his big thing is on, making it easy, trying to make
yeah.
habits easier if you can, and rewarding yourself for habits. And one of the things I realized is my gym wasn't anywhere near where I lived or
Yeah.
worked.
Totally.
And I was like, oh darn, maybe I need to find a gym that's between my my work and my home. At that time, I wasn't working
Totally.
from home.
Yep.
And then, sure enough, there was one. There's a CrossFit gym right there that I had friends that went to it, and all this stuff. And it costs more, but then I realized, like, well, it's probably, I might actually show up, because that's another thing, is like,
Yeah.
if you actually want to do something, you might need to actually invest in a little bit. Maybe my
Totally.
gym
Yeah.
membership was so cheap that it kind of was like,
100%.
well, it's harder to go cancel than,
Yeah.
but like, if I have to actually invest in it, I'm gonna have to drive by it on my way home every single day
Totally.
during
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
time that I know they have a class about to start. You start making it harder for you to say no. And so, anyways, I
Totally.
made that change, and I found that I went to the gym more than I ever had in my entire life,
Totally.
for several years,
Yeah.
because I made it just a little bit easier, to go, and a little bit harder not to. And it can just be all those simple things. I think they talk about how, hey, if you want to wake up every morning and do some exercise or stretching or
Yeah.
something like that, set out the yoga mat where you're going to do it.
Totally.
Put a
Yep.
little put your water bottle there. Like,
Yep.
get it ready for the next day, so that when
Totally.
you wake up, it's just going to be, and get your exercise clothes on, like when you go
Yeah.
to bed, like what you're going to wear the next morning, like get it all ready to go, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that it's going to be just a little bit harder to say no once you walk into the gym, like you said.
Totally.
Like, yeah,
Well,
I think
and
that's really
it's,
good.
I mean, to take that back around to what we were talking before, that's the exercise version of the strategic planning that we were talking about before. It's like plan your
Mm,
day in advance. I mean, it's setting out your running shoes, so to speak, and it's
yes.
establishing the destination to where it's like I show up and I already have three high value. I know if I get these done, I'm going to feel like I had a good work day, like in advance. So all I've got to
Yeah.
do is now, put on the shoes and go running. I don't have to go digging through my closet and, because all of the time you spend getting ready it's more time to, well, how do I want to say this? The time that you spend getting ready is a longer time to just give you to potentially quit, right? Where it's like,
Yes.
I'm just not going to do this because it's taking too much. And that's where, especially if there's resistance around some of your high value activities, you just might not do them at all. So,
Yeah, well said. Well said. So I need to know on this last point. Are have you been listening to Band of Brothers this week, or is there like a new one, or what?
yeah, I have listened to it some. I think I really, since I sent the email and we emailed about it a little bit, I was like, oh, I haven't listened to that in a while. So I listened to that. I have been listening to Brain.fm some as well this
Mm,
week because it's, and it's funny too because my like productivity music is the strings are, punchy enough where it goes, but my wife Kim also runs a business, and
hmm.
her productivity music was running. And it was like I would fall asleep if I listened to this. Like, how do you listen to this? Like, it almost needs to be a little chaotic for me, I think, sometimes
Mm.
to help me
Oh,
focus.
sure.
So,
That was one of the things that stood out to me from that choice, is like, when you listen to soundtrack music, often it's very like epic and inspirational, and I think,
yeah,
that's not a bad place to start your
that's
day.
good. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Well, no, and I think I don't know if I even realized that with it, but yeah, Band of Brothers, it is that kind of like expansive, aspirational. You know what I mean? It
Yes.
is. It's epic. It's focused in a certain way. Because the subject matter. I wonder if that's why I like the Hans Zimmer tracks too, because they are kind
Hmm.
of that like very, yeah, epic, large. That sort of same kind of genre, and so I think that yeah, that can help. I wonder from the creative side being kind of inspirational, and what, because everybody, I mean, not that this tricks you into thinking you do this, but it's like everybody wants to do work that matters. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
Yeah.
well, what would it sound like if you were doing work that matters? You know, and so I think that it's setting the stage. It's a good stuff.
Got your own soundtrack. Yeah,
that's right. I do.
Reminds me of Kronk in Emperor's New Groove. Weren't we talking about Kronk before the show started?
We were.
I feel like we need you to end this episode doing a Patrick Warburton impersonation.
Okay.
What's one of his lines?
I'll do Kronk impersonating, speaking squirrel. He speaks squirrel, right?
Squeaking.
Yeah. Squeak or squeak. Squeak.
Oh.
There you go.
Man, that is really good. This could be a whole other thing that you do.
Perfect.
Yeah, man, I love it. There's so many great Patrick Warburton roles that you could be doing on YouTube. I would definitely follow.
All right.
Well, Derek, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I hope that people found a lot of help in the things that we've been discussing. If people want to follow you and if people want to work with you at Parliament Consulting, how do they do that?
Yeah, I'm on the web, parliament.consulting. There's no .com. It's just parliament.consulting. You can send me an email, hello@parliament.consulting, and Instagram, I'm Parliament Consulting as well. So
awesome.
Yeah,
hey, dude, nice branding, by the way. That looks really good. I love the some really, and I will say, there's two things. The branding is great. Fruitful did it. I would highly recommend that you do it. And also they help name the company. So that the name, because the name's important, right? So the owl, right? Talk about the name.
So the name, I have a background in philosophy. So this idea of wisdom, I think, especially in the context of business, is really interesting to me. And so owls symbolize wisdom, and the collective noun for owls is parliament. So it's hope it embodies that idea of collective wisdom. That was the idea. Such a fun
name. Such a fun name. And I love how it turned out. It was a lot of fun to work with you on that. I'm glad you didn't go with the name Murder for Murder of Crows.
Yeah,
that would have been really
Murder
really
Consulting
big.
Is my other business. Has nothing to do.
nothing. That's right. Make sure you do parliament.consulting, not murder.crows. I hope that's not an actual thing.
Me too.
What does a murder or what does a crow symbolize? Probably not wisdom.
Not wisdom. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
There you go. Well, Derek, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us today on Growing a Fruitful Brand. If you found today's show helpful, don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might also enjoy it.
If you'd like to work with Fruitful on a branding, website, or messaging project of your own, you can always reach out on our website, fruitful.design.
But until next time, don't forget to grow something good.